Have you ever noticed how the harder you try to be happy, the more it seems to slip through your fingers? Picture this. You wake up on a Monday morning, open your phone, and see countless posts of people smiling, traveling, celebrating achievements. You tell yourself, I just need to get there too. If I find the right job, the right partner, the right lifestyle, then I'll finally be happy. Yet, as soon as you get closer to those milestones, the satisfaction fades. It's as if happiness is a shadow, always present, yet impossible to grasp directly. This constant pursuit is exhausting. And the irony is, the more you chase happiness, the less of it you actually feel. Have you noticed that? That quiet frustration, that gnawing sense of, why don't I feel fulfilled even though I'm doing everything I'm supposed to? This is where the trap reveals itself. The truth is, happiness was never meant to be the goal. When we treat happiness as the destination, we reduce our lives to a series of checklists, constantly measuring ourselves against others or against an imagined future self. And the more we measure, the emptier we feel. What if happiness is not something you can capture at all, but only something that arrives uninvited, when your attention is no longer on yourself? Think about a time when you were so absorbed in something meaningful, a deep conversation with a friend, creating something with your hands, or helping someone in need. You weren't chasing happiness in that moment. You were simply present, engaged with something beyond your own comfort. And yet, looking back, those are often the moments we describe as truly happy. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the horrors of concentration camps, observed this paradox with piercing clarity. Happiness is the unintended side effect of living with meaning. When you stop asking, am I happy right now? And start asking, what is being asked of me in this moment? Your life begins to shift. So let me ask you, are you sure your pursuit of happiness is not the very thing that's keeping you from it? Before we move deeper, take a moment. Look honestly at your life. How much of your energy is spent chasing happiness, and how much is spent creating meaning? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to know how this tension shows up in your journey. And if this reflection already stirs something in you, remember to like this video and subscribe, because the path we'll uncover here is not about empty promises, but about a transformation of perspective that could change the way you live. What if everything you've been taught about happiness is upside down? Imagine for a moment that instead of spending your life chasing the next pleasure, the next achievement, or the next escape from discomfort, you shifted your focus entirely. What if the real question was never, how do I become happy? But rather, how do I live a life worth suffering for? Picture this alternative reality. You wake up tomorrow and no longer feel the desperate pressure to be happy. Instead, you ask, what is meaningful for me to give myself to today? Suddenly, your relationships are no longer measured by how much they make you feel good, but by how much they allow you to love, to serve, to grow. Your work is not just a ladder to climb, but a canvas where you can shape something that leaves a mark. Even your struggles stop being signs of failure and become part of the fabric of your story, a story where meaning matters more than comfort. Can you feel the weight lifting already? It's as if a heavy burden is taken off your shoulders. Because the truth is, trying to be constantly happy is exhausting. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grasp, the faster it slips away. But when you aim at meaning instead, happiness visits you quietly, like a guest you never forced but welcomed by living authentically. Let me ask you, what would your life look like if happiness stopped being your ultimate goal? Would you live differently if you believed that happiness is not the prize but the echo, an after effect of pursuing something greater than yourself? This doesn't mean rejecting joy or denying the beauty of life. It means reordering the hierarchy. It means accepting that joy flows best, not when pursued, but when received as a gift. And ironically, this gift comes most often when we are absorbed in something beyond the self. So, close your eyes for a moment and imagine. If you woke up tomorrow with no obligation to chase happiness, where would you direct your energy? What would matter most? That image you just pictured, that's a glimpse of freedom. And it's also the seed of transformation we're going to cultivate together in the next part of this journey. Here's the disruptive truth. The more you make happiness your target, the more miserable you become. It sounds almost cruel, doesn't it? After all, society constantly whispers in our ears, "You deserve to be happy. You should be happy. If you're not happy, something is wrong with your life." But let's pause for a second and challenge that assumption. Think about how this plays out in everyday life. You get into a relationship believing it will make you happy. At first it does. There's excitement, novelty, passion. But slowly that initial euphoria fades. Now you feel anxious, questioning, "Am I still happy here? Is this person making me happy enough?" The very relationship that once felt like a gift becomes a measurement tool for your emotional state. And in that endless evaluation, joy suffocates. The same pattern repeats with careers, possessions, even personal goals. You reach one milestone and the thrill lasts a week, maybe a month. Then the hunger returns. It's never enough. The treadmill keeps moving, faster and faster, and you keep running, out of breath, chasing a promise that always escapes your grasp. This is the illusion. Happiness, when pursued directly, behaves like a mirage in the desert. The closer you think you are, the further it shifts into the distance. And here's the hard pill to swallow. This illusion isn't accidental. It's woven into the very fabric of how we've been conditioned to think about life. Consumer culture thrives on your dissatisfaction. The economy depends on you believing that one more purchase, one more upgrade, one more trip will finally deliver the happiness you deserve. But deep inside, you already know it's a lie. You felt it. That hollow moment after achieving what you thought would complete you, realizing you're still the same person, with the same restlessness gnawing at your soul. So let's expose the illusion clearly. Happiness is not a destination. It is not something you can demand, schedule, or engineer. It's not a product, a milestone, or a guarantee. Happiness is a byproduct, a side effect of living truthfully, of engaging with reality instead of escaping from it. Now here's the question to wrestle with. If happiness is not the goal, then what should be? The answer, as we'll uncover, might change everything you believe about how to live. When it comes to the pursuit of happiness, few voices carry more credibility than Viktor Frankl. He was not a philosopher writing comfortably from a desk, nor a psychologist experimenting in the safety of a laboratory. He was a man who walked through hell itself, the Nazi concentration camps, and emerged with insights that still cut through our modern confusion like a sharp blade. Frankl noticed something radical during his years of imprisonment. The people who survived were not necessarily the strongest, the healthiest, or even the most optimistic. Many of those people perished. The ones who endured were often those who carried a meaning larger than themselves. Whether it was the hope of seeing a loved one again, the responsibility of finishing an unfinished task, or the quiet dignity of refusing to let their captors destroy their inner freedom. He wrote, "Happiness cannot be pursued. It must ensue. One must have a reason to be happy." Notice the subtle but powerful shift in perspective. Happiness is not a goal you aim for, but something that happens when your life is aligned with meaning. It's like the shadow of your actions, visible only when you are facing the light of purpose. Frankl's authority is not theoretical, it's existential. If someone who endured starvation, humiliation, and constant threat of death tells us that happiness comes not from chasing pleasure, but from embracing meaning, shouldn't we at least pause and reconsider our own assumptions? Think about it. We live in an age where comfort and convenience are more accessible than ever before. Yet rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness are skyrocketing. Could it be that our obsession with happiness as an entitlement is precisely what makes us so restless? Frankl would say yes. He believed that the real crisis of modern man is not a lack of pleasure, but a lack of meaning. An existential vacuum where comfort abounds but purpose is absent. So here's the challenge. Instead of asking life, "How can you make me happy?" Frankl teaches us to reverse the question. Life is asking you, "What is being required of you in this moment?" And your answer is not found in feelings but in choices, daily, concrete, sometimes difficult choices that align you with something greater than yourself. What would change if you lived each day as if life itself was asking you a question and you were responsible for answering it with your actions? There's a reason why so many of us feel quietly unsatisfied, even when life looks good from the outside. We often blame our jobs, our relationships, or our circumstances, but the truth runs deeper. The very way we measure happiness sets us up for frustration. Here's the invisible pattern at work. When you believe happiness is the goal, every experience becomes an evaluation. You go on a vacation. Was it as fun as you hoped? You start a new project. Does it make you feel fulfilled enough? You meet someone. Are they giving you the happiness you crave? Life turns into an endless scoreboard, and you are both the player and the harshest referee. This creates what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. No matter how much you achieve, the satisfaction quickly fades, and you return to the same baseline of restlessness. You buy the new car, get the promotion, move into the nicer apartment. But soon it all feels normal, and you need the next upgrade to feel alive again. The treadmill never stops, and the exhaustion grows. The irony is that while we obsess over happiness, we overlook meaning, the very thing that could ground us. Meaning doesn't fade with time in the same way pleasure does. A moment of genuine sacrifice, a choice to love when it cost you something, or a decision to persevere through hardship. These are not experiences that vanish once the feeling wears off. They carve themselves into your character. They stay. Here's another hidden dynamic. When we chase happiness, we become more self-centered. Every situation is filtered through the lens of, does this make me feel good? But when we pursue meaning, our attention shifts outward. We begin to ask, how can I contribute? What is my responsibility here? What is being asked of me? And paradoxically, in forgetting ourselves, we often stumble upon the joy we were chasing all along. So let's put it bluntly. Happiness as a pursuit makes you fragile, always at the mercy of circumstances. But meaning makes you resilient, able to withstand storms without losing your center. Think about your own life. How many of your disappointments came from expecting happiness to appear on demand? And how many of your deepest joys arrived as a side effect of doing something meaningful? Something that mattered beyond your own comfort? Sometimes we need truths so sharp and simple that they slice right through our excuses. Let's lay down a few of them. Not as motivational slogans, but as reminders you can carry with you when the illusion of happiness comes knocking again. The more you chase happiness, the more it runs. Pleasure fades, meaning endures. Happiness is not a right to be claimed. It is a gift that arrives when you stop demanding it. Comfort makes you fragile. Responsibility makes you strong. Stop asking, am I happy? Start asking, am I living truthfully? These are not just clever phrases. They are pivots, mental shifts that reorient your entire way of seeing life. Notice how each one pushes you away from self-absorption and toward something greater. Because the tragedy of our time is not that people are unhappy, but that they are obsessed with happiness and miss the deeper question entirely. Viktor Frankl once wrote that success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue as the unintended side effect of one's dedication to a cause greater than oneself. Read that again slowly. Success and happiness are not destinations, they are echoes. So here's a challenge for you. Pick one of these truths and carry it with you this week. Let it echo in your mind when you feel the urge to measure your life by how happy you feel. For example, when you catch yourself thinking, this job doesn't make me happy anymore, reframe it. What responsibility is being asked of me here? What meaning can I uncover in this struggle? It doesn't mean you should never change jobs, relationships, or circumstances. It means you stop treating them as vending machines for happiness. You stop demanding they deliver constant satisfaction, and instead, you approach them as arenas for growth, service, and character. The power of these statements lies not in remembering them once, but in living them repeatedly until they stop being words and become part of your backbone. So let me ask you, which of these truths struck you the hardest? And are you willing to let it guide your choices, even when happiness feels absent? Here is the paradox most of us try to avoid. The very moments we label as unhappy often hold the deepest potential for meaning. Think about it. When has your character grown the most? Was it in seasons of ease and comfort, or in seasons of struggle, loss, and uncertainty? The common assumption is that happiness and suffering are opposites, that to have one, you must eliminate the other. But Viktor Frankl's insight shatters that illusion. He discovered that even in the most unbearable conditions, life could still hold meaning. And when life holds meaning, joy, though quieter, more subtle than pleasure, can coexist with suffering. This is not the superficial joy of distraction or entertainment. It is the deeper joy of knowing your pain has purpose. The paradox is that happiness often follows suffering, not because suffering is pleasant, but because suffering endured with meaning transforms you. Imagine two people going through the exact same hardship. One person asks, "Why is this happening to me?" and sinks into despair. The other asks, "What is life demanding of me right now?" and discovers an inner strength they didn't know they had. The external pain is the same, but the inner experience is worlds apart. This paradox forces us to rethink happiness itself. Maybe true happiness is not the absence of pain, but the presence of purpose strong enough to carry us through it. Maybe it's not about feeling good all the time, but about being faithful to what matters, even when it costs us. Dostoevsky once wrote, "Man is sometimes extraordinarily, passionately in love with suffering." He didn't mean we should seek pain for its own sake, but that suffering gives depth to our lives. It chisels us, confronts us, awakens us. In fact, some of the most meaningful moments you will ever recall are likely tied to times when you suffered, but chose not to give up. So here's the unsettling but liberating truth. If you spend your life avoiding suffering at all costs, you also avoid meaning. But if you accept suffering as inevitable and ask what it is teaching you, happiness, quiet, resilient, unshakable, will eventually find its way back to you. The real question is, are you willing to embrace this paradox, or will you keep running from the very thing that could deepen your life? Here's the irony. When you stop chasing happiness and start pursuing meaning, you actually receive a reward far greater than what you were chasing in the first place. It doesn't happen instantly, and it doesn't always feel the way you imagined, but it's deeper, steadier, and more enduring than fleeting pleasure. Think of it like planting a tree. If your goal is to sit under the shade today, you'll be frustrated. Trees don't grow on command. But if you commit yourself to planting, watering, and nurturing, one day you'll sit beneath its branches and realize the shade came as a gift, not as a demand. That's how happiness works when you live with meaning. The reward of this shift is twofold. First, you gain inner resilience. Life stops feeling like a fragile balancing act, where the slightest disappointment can ruin your day. Instead, you become grounded in something larger than emotions. Second, you experience joy as a companion rather than a master. You stop chasing it frantically and discover it walking beside you when you least expect it, in a smile shared with a stranger, in the pride of finishing a difficult task, in the quiet peace after a long day of giving your best. Here's the promise Frankl leaves us with. When you devote yourself to meaning, happiness ensues. It follows you not because you demanded it, but because you aligned your life with truth. In this way, happiness is not the goal, but the echo, the music that plays when you are dancing with responsibility, love, and purpose. Imagine what your relationships would look like if you stopped asking, "Do they make me happy?" and started asking, "How can I love more deeply here?" Imagine your work if you stopped demanding, "Does this job fulfill me enough?" and started asking, "How can I contribute something worthwhile today?" The reward is that happiness will quietly enter through the back door, surprising you when you're no longer looking for it. So here is your invitation. Release the exhausting chase. Stop measuring every experience by how happy it makes you. Instead, ask, what is being asked of me? Where can I bring meaning? The reward is not just a happier life, but a life that matters. Now tell me, can you see how letting go of happiness as your goal might actually bring you closer to the very joy you've been searching for all along? At this point, it's worth grounding our reflections in a solid framework. Otherwise, the message risks sounding like vague inspiration rather than a practical path. The foundation beneath everything we've been exploring is what Viktor Frankl called logotherapy. The word itself comes from the Greek logos, meaning meaning. In essence, logotherapy is the conviction that our deepest drive as human beings is not pleasure, as Freud argued, nor power, as Adler believed, but meaning. This framework gives us a way to interpret life's experiences without being enslaved by the pursuit of happiness. According to logotherapy, You discover meaning in three primary ways: through creative work, through relationships of love, and through the attitude you choose in unavoidable suffering. Notice what's absent here. There is no guarantee of comfort, no constant state of bliss. Instead, there is a call to responsibility, to engagement, to transcendence. Let's break it down. In creative work, you pour yourself into something that outlives you, whether that's building, writing, teaching, or even raising children. In relationships of love, you step outside of yourself and recognize the dignity of another person, giving without calculation. And in suffering, perhaps the most challenging, you choose not to collapse into despair but to ask, how can I endure this with dignity? What meaning can I uncover here? This framework is liberating because it doesn't deny the reality of pain or the fleeting nature of pleasure. Instead, it offers a compass. While happiness rises and falls like the weather, meaning gives you direction, a north star to navigate even the darkest nights. Julian Marias, the Spanish philosopher, once wrote that human life is not something we have, but something we are constantly making. Every choice is a building block, every moment a chance to construct meaning. This aligns perfectly with Frankl's insight. Life is not about demanding happiness, but about responding to life's demand with courage and responsibility. So here's the invitation. Begin to see your days not as a pursuit of comfort, but as a canvas of choices. Ask yourself daily, am I creating? Am I loving? Am I enduring with dignity? If the answer is yes, happiness will eventually find you, not as a prize, but as proof that you are living truthfully. The framework is clear. The question now is whether you are willing to live by it. So here we are at the end of this journey. We began by exposing the silent sabotage of chasing happiness, and we arrive now at a deeper truth. Life is not about demanding joy from the world, but about answering the world's demand for meaning. Happiness is not the destination. It is the echo of a life lived in truth, love, and responsibility. The invitation is simple but not easy. Stop asking, am I happy enough? That question will keep you trapped forever. Instead, start asking, what is being asked of me right now? How can I serve, love, and create, even in the face of suffering? When you live that way, happiness will stop being a fragile obsession and start becoming a faithful companion. Imagine the shift. Relationships no longer judged by how much they entertain you, but by how deeply they teach you to love. Work no longer weighed by how much pleasure it gives you, but by how much it allows you to contribute something meaningful. Even suffering, once feared as the enemy, becomes a teacher. Painful, yes, but capable of shaping you into someone wiser and stronger. This is the call of Viktor Frankl's vision, and it's also the timeless wisdom of countless philosophers and writers. From Dostoevsky's acknowledgement of suffering as a path to depth, to Thomas Aquinas's teaching that true fulfillment lies not in pleasure, but in living according to the highest good. The thread is clear. Transcend yourself, and life opens. Remain trapped in yourself, and happiness slips away. So here's where I turn it over to you. I want to hear your voice. Tell me in the comments, have you noticed this trap in your own life? The restless chase after happiness that only leaves you more empty? And more importantly, what meaning are you willing to pursue instead? If this journey spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may be caught in the same silent sabotage. Together, we can create a space not for shallow promises, but for genuine growth, where we learn to trade the fragile pursuit of happiness for the enduring strength of meaning. Take this with you. Life is not asking if you are happy. It is asking if you are faithful to the task set before you. Answer that call and happiness will follow, not as a goal, but as a gift.